Happy Halloween month, everybody, and Tony here with my review of Mozart's Die Zauberflöte with conductor Friedrich Pretorius, which I saw at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. This marks the 6th time I saw this production of Mozart's Die Zauberflöte by Günther Kramer at the Deutsche Oper Berlin because I wanted to see and hear Nina Solodovnikova perform the role of Pamina. But before I get to her, Diana Schnürpel struck again as the Queen of the Night. I saw her in this role roughly 10 to 11 months ago, and she continues to be in excellent, pristine, and absolutely outstanding tip-top form tonight. Her vocal presence continued to be as strong as ever from bottom to top. Her chest tones, as well as her coordinated chest tones and her head voice managed to be in excellent shape, but more than anything, her high notes continued to blossom and bloom in clarity, as well as a whole lot of gold, titanium, and platinum falling right out of her mouth every time she hit those high Fs. And she even hit an extra high F and an extra high D when she was singing Der Hölle Rache, especially when she had to attack those staccato notes. Therefore, Diana Schnürpel was in excellent form tonight. She continues to be a perfectly wonderful singer, and I see an amazing future in her, especially with roles like Anna Bolena, Maria Stuarda, which she might have already sung, but I would love to see her do a lot more performances in that particular Donizetti queen, Elisabetta I from Roberto Devereux, Marguerite de Valois from Les Huguenots, Isabelle from Robert le Diable, Marguerite from Faust, Antonia from Le Comte of Man, Daphne from Richard Strauss's Daphne, Beatrice di Tenda, Imogene from Il Pirata, Leonora from Il Trovatore, Bellini's Norma, Elena from I Vespri Siciliani, Elvira from Ernani, Rossini's Semiramide, Madama Cortese from Il Viaggio a Reims, and Mathilde from Guillaume Tell. The possibilities for Diana Schnürpel are absolutely endless, and I really enjoyed seeing her just rocket as the Queen of the Night, all thanks to her platinum-sounding dramatic coloratura soprano voice that also has the exceptional lightness, clarity, and beauty of a lyric coloratura soprano, all wrapped up into one amazing package. So brava, bravissima to Diana Schnürpel for a job excellently, let alone outstandingly done as the Queen of the Night. Now we get to the main highlight of this review, Nina Solodovnikova as Pamina. I was quite curious to see how she was going to sound live tonight at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, because as I was reading her biography, she seems to specialize in a great chunk of lyric coloratura soprano roles, ranging from Giunia from Lucio Silla, Violetta Valeri from La Traviata, and even more lyrical roles like Micaela from Carmen. And as I heard her live, I was totally impressed with the color of her voice, as well as how much charisma it had, and a whole lot of great potential to keep on growing. There was that silveriness to her voice that was also combined with a few golden elements that made her shine so brilliantly, especially when she attacked those high notes. She was able to have that rich and creamy instrument that I love in many a lyric soprano or even a coloratura soprano singing Pamina, and she just had an absolutely endearing stage presence, especially when she makes herself an absolutely elegant stage animal, just gracing around the stage as Pamina and doing so with élan, flair, and absolutely amazing charisma. Sure, the only thing that needs a lot of work on Nina Solodovnikova's voice are her chest tones. She needs to develop them a lot more if she is to be a more complete singer, because who I have in my ears in terms of lyric sopranos singing Pamina who also have great chest tones are Eleanor Steber, Lisa Della Casa, Lucina Amara, Evelyn Lear, and Gundula Yanovitz. As for the more light lyric sopranos who also specialize in coloratura soprano roles, I also have in my ears Nadine Connor, Annelisa Rothenberger, Elisabeth Schumann, Lotte Schöne, and one of my most top favorites in this role, Ileana Kotrubash. And let's also not forget about the coloratura sopranos who also have good and developed chest tones in the forms of Melita Muselli, Vilma Lipp, Anna Moffo, Valerie Masterson, Lucia Pop, Irma Urilla, and Sonia Schöne. And I should not forget about Elisabeth Schwarzkopf for her amazing legato singing, as well as that silvery tone that she managed to produce, especially considering that she was quite a well-known Pamina during the 40s and the 50s. I'm confident that Nina Solodovnikova could learn a thing or two, especially from the likes of Anna Moffo in terms of her creamy, rich, and agile voice that also has good chest tones and can sing well from bottom to top, as well as Ileana Kotrubash being the complete instrument in terms of the youthfulness in her voice, added in with that flexibility both in the chest tones as well as in her head voice and in terms of her high notes. That is definitely a complete package right there. And I also dare not forget about the likes of Pilar Lorengar and Gundula Yanovitz, whose silvery, creamy, and absolutely gorgeous lyric soprano voices are also flexible from bottom to top, especially where Pilar Lorengar is concerned, considering that she not only aced it as Pamina, but was also a wonderful Violetta with her high E flat. So there are a lot of sopranos that Nina Solodovnikova could learn from if she wants to continue growing and glowing and constantly flourishing as a lyric soprano with good coloratura technique, because I could see a great future in her in terms of roles like Lucia Ashton from Lucia di Lammermoor, Amina from La Sonambula, Elvira from I Puritani, Alaida from La Straniera, Corinna from Il Viaggio a Rams, Matilde di Chabran, Medora from Il Corsaro, Magda di Civri from La Rondine, Anna from Levili, and Truelove from The Rake's Progress, Zdenka from Arabella, Aitra from The Egyptische Helena, Berthe from Le Prophète, Catherine from L'Étoile du Nord, Louise from Gustave Charpentier's Louise, Massenet's Manon, and Melisande from Peleas et Melisande. The possibilities for Nina Solodovnikova are absolutely endless, and I still have to commend her for a job superbly done in terms of her performance tonight as Pamina. She was able to rock that gorgeous voice that has a lot of potential to keep on growing and do so in a way that managed to make me thoroughly impressed with the potential that she has, especially found in that lusciously creamy and rich voice that can produce loads of silver and gold falling out of her mouth. She just needs to keep on working on those chest tones and being fully committed to those chest tones if she is to be a more thorough and more complete singer. I was in two minds about Sua Jo tackling Papagena because she already had that in her repertoire. But if you ask me if there is any role in the magic flute that Sua Jo is the best at, and I would argue is excellent at, it's Pamina, because she has the actual creaminess of tone as well as good legato singing and loads of lyricism to make this princess come to life. This is more of a soprano who could sing not only Pamina, but also Constanze, Fiordiligi, Susanna, Mimi, Liu, Zdenka, Aitra, Violetta Valery, Medora from Il Corsaro, Magda di Civri from La Rondine, Anna from Levili, and Truelove from The Rake's Progress, Melisande from Peleas et Melisande, and Masnes Manon, and lest I forget about Antonia from Le Comte of Man. This is not a voice that I would associate for someone so bright and breezy and light, sparkly and silvery as Papagena. Nevertheless, Suajo, being the peerlessly amazing and equally outstanding singer that she was, managed to use some girlishness in her voice and managed to sweeten her voice to make Papagena come to life, although her natural lyric temperament is still present even with such a soubrette-ish part. But that is not to take away the great talent as well as the amazing artistry that Suajo had to offer as Papagena. In fact, it managed to enhance it a lot more because what I see in Miss Jo is a lot of beauty, a lot of great artistry, and equally great comic timing as Papagena. So I still have to salute Suajo for a job excellently done as Papagena, although if you ask me, I think she should have just stuck with Pamina and called it a day. Just please leave the role of Papagena to lighter and sweeter sounding voices, the ones that would usually sing the likes of Blondchen from Die Entführung aus dem Serail, or even that of Zerlina, Despina, or to some extent Lacme, Philine, Dinora, Urbain from Les Huguenots, and Olympia from Le Comte of Man. Therefore, although I love Suajo's great vocal prowess as Papagena, she is just much better at singing Pamina, which I would argue is what the Germans call her Paradenrolle, as well as a role that she has always excelled in because of the natural lyric temperament of her voice and the natural creaminess that she produces every time she opens her mouth to sing. Stephanie Wake-Edwards' plush and gorgeously toned mezzo voice that has a lot of potential to keep on growing in chestiness managed to be serviceable as the third lady, and I cannot wait to see what else is in store for Miss Wake-Edwards in terms of her vocal growth and evolution, because that is a great mezzo-soprano voice right there, just waiting to blossom and bloom. Karis Tucker managed to continue to make great use of her chest tones and coordinated head voice to make the second lady come to life and be quite voluptuous in her own way. And Maria Vasilevskaya managed to use her silvery lyric soprano voice to make the first lady just blossom and bloom. And when you put Miss Wake-Edwards, Miss Tucker, and Miss Vasilevskaya together as all three ladies, they managed to make some exceptional music together and do so in a way that I saluted each and every one of them for their great collaborative effort. The soloists of the children's chorus of the Deutsche Oper Berlin sang the three boys with such sweetness and loveliness and innocence that I also wish them well with all of their wonderful endeavors. Jorge Puerta used his natural lyric tenor voice to take advantage of the first armed man, and his natural lyric tenor voice shone way better in roles like this instead of the meteor spinto, let alone dramatic tenor roles like Andrea Chenier and Radames. Because with roles like this, like the first armed man, and many other great roles for a lyric tenor, i.e. Rodolfo from La Bohème, or even Edgardo from Lucia de Lammermoor, and to some extent Jacopo Foscari from I Due Foscari, these are roles that I would actually recommend Senor Puerta to keep on singing rather than keep on pushing his natural lyric tenor voice to these type of bigger, beefier, heftier, more incisive roles. So he managed to do a grand job as the first armed man because his natural full lyric tenor voice shone with beauty, a marbled elegance, and of course, great musicianship. What more can you ask for from Senor Jorge Puerta? He was in his A game as the first armed man, and I salute him for his superb musicianship. Porrick Rowan made a strikingly strong impression as Papageno. In fact, his natural baritone voice, although he labels himself as a bass baritone, managed to be of great service to Papageno, which should come off as no surprise because one of the finest bass baritones or natural baritones to sing Papageno was Walter Bery, a role that he managed to sing for many years and do so with much success, great comic timing, and most importantly, amazing technique found in his rich and equally wonderful bass baritone voice that also had the potential to sing villain baritone roles as well as Heldenbariton roles, more specifically Pizarro, Telramund, and Wotan. And there is also a great future for Mr. Rowan, who could also follow in the footsteps of Walter Berry, especially with roles like Don Pizarro, Friedrich von Telramund, Alberich, and maybe to some extent Wotan from Rheingold, and maybe even Valkyrie. Who knows? The possibilities for Porrick Rowan are absolutely endless because he is a consummate musician. In fact, he managed to grow so effectively as a singing actor that I didn't notice any flaws in his voice whatsoever. Whatever his issues were back then, as in 1 year ago, they were pretty much gone tonight. He managed to be on his A game as well as take advantage of his natural baritone voice to make Papageno a charismatic, charming, and absolutely lovable figure who also has that virility about him that I totally love. So hats off to Porrick Rowan for growing in his technique as his voice bloomed and blossomed tonight, as well as his great comic timing as Papageno and just making him a lovable and charming fellow that I loved to watch every time he walked on stage. So I salute Mr. Porrick Rowan for a job excellently done as Papageno. He grew with charisma and brilliance, and his vocal goods grew a lot more rock solid, stronger, and way more formidable than I ever expected him to be. Kieran Corral struck again as Tamino, and he also grew quite well in his natural light lyric tenor voice. When listening to him a lot more, especially since he's improved for 1 year, I could hear semblances of Leopold Simoneau in his voice. And yes, even though Leopold Simoneau isn't really the greatest light lyric tenor ever, he still had good musicianship, and he still had a lovely timbre ideal for light tenor roles. And that is what I managed to hear in Kieran Corral, a fine light lyric tenor voice that may not be the most beautiful or the most sweeping or the most exciting, but it's still pleasant to listen to, and I'm quite astounded to hear how much he has grown. Yes, he may not be a Walter Ludwig or an Anton de Mota or even a Nikolai Gedda or Fritz Wunderlich, because these were 4 of the greatest lyric tenors to have ever conquered Tamino, unless I forget about Charles Cullman, Brian Sullivan, and George Shirley, another set of great lyric tenors who have made such a strong impression as Tamino. At least with Kieran Corral, he was still in a class of his own, and he managed to put in a lot of youth and loveliness to his voice that managed to grow pretty well as a natural light lyric tenor, almost reminiscent of Leopold Simoneau. So I still have to give my hat off to Kieran Corral for a job well done as Tamino, and here's also hoping that he continues to keep on growing on his technique. Burkhard Ulrich, who is a frequent interpreter of Monostatos, finds himself singing the role of the second priest, and he was also in tip-top form, in tip-top shape, and he also had a lot of charisma to carry this role through and make him win in my eyes. And what more can you expect from Herr Ulrich? He managed to also sing extremely well with a lot of nuance as the second priest, and do so in a way that managed to make him absolutely brilliant. Speaking of brilliant, Chance-Jonas O'Toole shone so brilliantly as Monostatos, and I also love it when a youthful character tenor or a young light tenor sings Monostatos, because I would prefer him to be a slightly younger love rival against Tamino in order to try so desperately to win over Pamina, but that ends up failing rather badly because Pamina doesn't really want him. I would rather be with Tamino. And what Chance-Jonas O'Toole managed to accomplish as Monostatos was a lot of nuanced singing and a lot of brilliant singing found in his light tenor voice that also has the potential to keep on growing in the character tenor parts. So he was absolutely in his A game tonight, and I also continue to wish him a whole lot of fortune and a whole lot of excellence in not only the light tenor repertoire, but also the character tenor repertoire, which he continues to be acing in all the time. Patrick Getty also struck again as Zarastro, and his trademark basso profondo voice still managed to be as strong as ever. You could argue that the throatiness and some of that voce ingolata can get rather irritating, but more than anything, Patrick Getty was still in his absolute A game as Zarastro, thanks to that natural roundness, richness, darkness, cavernousness, and sheer virility that managed to make him absolutely brilliant and absolutely strong as a singing actor. So I still have to give my hat off to Patrick Getty for a job excellently done as Zarastro, and I also wish him a lot of great fortune and great brilliance in a lot of the basso profondo repertoire. Who knows, maybe one day I would love to see him sing the role of the Grand Inquisitor from Don Carlo, and maybe even see him a lot more as Osmin, the Commendatore, Fafna, and even Titurel from Parsifal. The possibilities for this basso profondo are absolutely endless, and his towering stage presence coupled with his dark and cavernous basso profondo voice are absolutely great assets that make Patrick Getty exceptional in his own special way. Gerard Carreras was a cavernous, strong, and absolutely handsome second-arm man. There is a brilliant basso cantante voice constantly emerging in Senor Carreras, and I would definitely love to see Senor Carreras conquer roles like Don Giovanni from Don Giovanni, Filippo II from Don Carlo, Sparafucile from Rigoletto, Gurdemans from Parsifal, Heinrich der Vogler from Lohengrin, König Make from Tristan und Isolde, Landgraf Hermann from Tannhäuser, Pistola from Falstaff, Marcel from Les Huguenots, Mephistopheles from Faust and Mefistofele, and many other great roles for a basso cantante, because his virility as well as his great musicianship made Senor Carreras shine tonight as the second-arm man. Joel Allison was a strong, handsome, and sturdy speaker of the temple, and he definitely grew in awesome virility and equally great vocalism as this role. Sure, he may not be on the level of my personal favorite singers of the Speaker of the Temple, such as Paul Schöffler and Hans Hotte, because of Schöffler's and Hotte's naturally dark and naturally rich bass baritone voices that emit nobility and a whole bunch of virility, unless they forget about when Walter Berry sang this role roughly in the late 70s and early 80s. I think he sang this in Salzburg, but he was also strong as the Speaker of the Temple. Regardless, Joel Allison was in a class of his own tonight as the Speaker of the Temple, and he managed to make great vocal magic as this wonderful part, and do so in a way that made me thoroughly engaged with what he had to offer and what advice he had to give to Tamino. Stephen Marsh grew so wonderfully as the first priest, and it was also thanks to his fine and plush bass baritone voice that has all the potential to keep on growing and flourishing that managed to make him a strong vocalist tonight, and also make great interpersonal chemistry with Burkhard Ulrich as the second priest. So overall, the singing was absolutely amazing tonight. Special acknowledgement continues to go to Diana Schnurpel for her excellent vocal portrayal as the Queen of the Night, all thanks to her blazing platinum, titanium, and golden high notes that managed to leave me on the edge of my seat, unless they forget that adding in the extra high F and extra high D was also the same stunt that Frida Hempel and Melita Haim did in the 1920s, let alone in the 1910s. So here she was doing this and just rocking it throughout the evening and just doing so in such a brilliant way, specifically in her second act aria, Der Coloratura. I also have to salute Nina Solodovnikova for striking a strong first impression with me as Pamina, because there is a voice right there that has a lot of potential to keep on growing and flourishing, both in the lyric soprano repertoire and the lyric coloratura soprano repertoire. And let's not forget about Suajo, whose superb musicianship managed to make her a strong performer as Papagena, but I seriously think that her best vocal assets lie in her performance as Pamina, because that is where her lyricism truly should remain, and that is a role that I am sure she should keep on excelling in every time she tackles a role from the Zauberflöte. Regardless, Suajo was still an excellent Papagena. It's just that her voice and her overall lyricism are way more suitable for Pamina. I also have to give mad props to Stephanie Wake Edwards, Karis Tucker, Maria Vasilevskaya, the soloists of the children's chorus of the Deutsche Oper Berlin, Jorge Puerta, Pork Rowan, Kieran Corral, Burkhard Ulrich, Chance-Jonas O'Toole, Patrick Getty, Gerard Ferreras, Joel Allison, and Stephen Marsh for equally great jobs in their roles. Everybody was a star tonight, and they all gave their A game from beginning to end. The conducting done by Friedrich Pretorius was exciting from beginning to end as well, but there were times that I felt like the brass and the percussion were a little bit too dominating throughout the orchestra. And there were also times that some of the tempi were a bit too fast for my tastes. Some of the tempi that were supposed to be a little bit more pensive, especially in the overture, or even when Tamino and Pamina see each other during the trials, are supposed to be a little bit more pensive. They're supposed to be a little bit more nuanced and gradual, but not necessarily slow, but just show a little bit more nuance and more gradual pacing. At least when he conducts for the more charged up moments like the Coloratura as well as the No Stille Stille, he was still able to do a great job with those particular segments. It's just that I wish for a lot more nuance and way more versatility with how the music is handled, because who I have in my ears of favorite Mozart conductors, especially where the Zauberflöte is concerned, are the likes of Otto Klemperer, Herbert von Karajan, and Karl Böhm. These three conductors were absolutely in their A game when it came to Mozart, especially where Otto Klemperer was concerned, because of the nuances that he had to offer, as well as the overall beauty of tone, and let's not forget about von Karajan, who was also able to pay really close attention to the music, and let's not forget about the likes of Wolfgang Sawallisch and Carlos Kleiber and Erich Kleiber, and let's not forget about Erich Leinsdorf. Those were way more nuanced conductors who paid closer attention to the music as well as the score to ensure that everything moves smoothly and not just constantly blast certain loud moments. So there are times that I feel like Herr Pretorius does need to dial it back down a bit, but other than that, it was still exciting, it was still involving, and he still managed to keep that orchestra rowing and flowing, and the chorus and the orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin were absolutely great all the way through. So overall, with Nina Solodovnikova striking a strong first impression on me as Pamina, I could definitely see her career flourish and grow from here. She has a brilliant future, and sure, I do love that creaminess in her voice, how well she was able to project throughout the theater, and how she was able to make that voice shine with a lot of sheen and shimmer. But she needs to keep on working on her chest tones if she is to become a more complete singer. And I still also have to give a lot of kudos to her stage mother, Diana Schnurpel, for rocking it as the Queen of the Night, as she always did, not just in the many performances that she did years ago, but also when I first heard her live roughly 10 to 11 months ago, in which she really made a strong first impression on me live and did so with a lot of beauty, aplomb, and excellence. Going back to Nina Solodovnikova, she is still an excellent singer that I would still love to see keep on growing and flourishing with everything that she's got. And here's also hoping that she continues to grow and flourish as a lyric coloratura soprano in a lot of great roles to come. And for those of you who caught this performance of Mozart's Die Zauberflöte at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what did you think of it? Did you feel that Nina Solodovnikova sang extremely well as Pamina and you felt like she was excellent? Did you also feel like the likes of Diana Schnurpel and Sua Jo stole her thunder as the Queen of the Night and Papagena respectively? Was there another singer that you loved from this particular performance of Die Zauberflöte? Or did you feel like the singing was not really to your liking? Please let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for my review of Mozart's Die Zauberflöte, starring Nina Solodovnikova as Pamina. Tune in tomorrow for my review of Beethoven's Fidelio, also at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. So until then, good night everybody, and happy Halloween month.